micro communities which are free from oppression. So you're not going to employ an Indonesian maid. She is the last to sleep at night. She is my daughter. She is your daughter. She is my sister. She is your sister. She is the last to sleep at night. She is the first to wake in the morning. She works all day long. She gets no holidays. She is abused. She is exploited. In Singapore, she has to cook pork, lahmul khinzir. She has to do other things we can't talk about. And at the end of the month, she's paid the salary or the wage of a slave. Come on, Lee Kuan Yew. Is there any Singaporean woman who would work for $300 a month? Shame on you, Singapore. Shame on you, wherever in the world you pay a maid the wage of a slave. How do you know it's the wage of a slave? No Malaysian woman will work for that wage. No Malaysian laborer will work for that wage that you're paying the Bangladeshi and you're paying the Indonesian. So you are an oppressor and Allah will destroy you, Allah will destroy you, Allah will destroy you. So we will create our micro communities which will be free from oppression. Banks are not allowed. No. So no money lenders. And we're not going to use this paper money. The gold dinar and silver dirham is what you find in the Quran. So the gold dinar and silver dirham will be used as money. And if we have a shortage of dinars and dirhams, and we in Java, we can use rice as money. Yeah. In that micro community, we try to live the way of life of Islam. And if they come after us with the armed forces and the police in that remote community, then, said the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam, and how prophetic were his words, and how few there are who listen to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasallam. And he said, the time will come when a man, in order to preserve his faith, would have to flee to the mountainsides where rain falls and take with him some sheep and goats. And so I leave you now. I thank you for the time that you've given to me to introduce you to this important topic. I warn you that we now live in the most dangerous of all worlds. And most people are going to fail the tests. And I urge you to study the subject of signs of the last day and to examine my suggestion that survival requires us to try to live Islam. And we cannot live Islam in their cities and towns, but we might succeed if we remove ourselves from the towns and cities and go back to Kampung and build a community that is faithful to Allah and His Messenger. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين آمين. I saw my teacher, Maulana Dr. Fazlur Rahman Ansari, conducting a class. And while the class was being conducted, the azan was called. Of course, we'll be going to the masjid. When the azan started, I heard him say, Allahumma Jalla Jalalahu, and then continue, with the class. So I followed his way. If anyone can show me that this is prohibited, then of course I will discontinue it. Okay, there's nothing that I know of in the Quran and nothing that I know of in the Ahadith with which to respond to your question. I therefore will give you my view. I believe that those who are in control of the world today, who want to rule the whole world and eventually deliver that rule to the state of Israel, so that tomorrow Israel will rule the world. And when Israel rules the world, then a man would stand up in Jerusalem and declare, I am the Messiah, Al-Masih. 1400 years ago, Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam described that man to us. Said he'll be a Jew. He will be a young man. He'll be powerfully built. He'd have curly hair. I believe that that event is probably about 30 years away from now. That's how close we are. That man would be Dajjal. Dajjal. Because he says he is the Messiah, but no, he is not the Messiah. He is the false Messiah. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send back the true Messiah. Nabi Isa alayhi salam will come down from the sky with his hands resting on the wings of two angels. And the true Messiah will then kill the false Messiah. And after that takes place the big Gog and Magog war, which will be the Dukhan. But in order for Israel to rule the world, Israel has to wage some big wars. The wars that Israel has so far waged are small wars. Israel has to attack Egypt so that the territory of the state of Israel can expand to incorporate the whole of the eastern delta of Egypt, from the river Nile to the Red Sea.